Public service announcement. Passionate. Let me tell you something. So what is this Passion PSA podcast? Who am I? Well, they call me Passion, short for passion, no last necessary. Why is there no last name necessary? Because the first name says it all. I am Passion and all that embodies. What do I do here? I give you the life coaching that you know you need, but don't enroll yourself in. When did I start? Actually, 2017. I'd leave a PSA on my Instagram regarding something I'd observed, and now we've evolved to this. Why do I do it? Why not? If even one person is able to take away one thing that changes their life, someone else's life, or changes the world for the better, then I've done what I was charged to do. So come on in, sit and listen for a while. There's something here for everyone at the Passion PSA podcast. Greetings and salutations, my beloved passionates, newcomers, visitors, and guests. Welcome to another episode of the Passion PSA podcast, where I, Passion No Last Necessary, your Get You Right Guru, issue a weekly public service announcement about whatever I've observed or was on my mind. This is a for your consideration zone where the objective is to offer you a perspective you may not have previously considered, to A, expand your thinking, and B, to aid you in becoming a better version of yourself, for yourself, and for others. This is a safe space, but not necessarily a delicate one. I will never rob you of your right to feel what you feel, the same way I will not sugarcoat the truth to make it more palatable. The goal is to get you to higher, more expanded thinking so that you can operate as your highest and best self. If you are new here, we start each episode with affirmations to ensure that regardless of what we discuss and how it may make you feel, we have intentionally started on the highest possible vibration and correct frequency. So we're going to take this moment to shift the energy upward and open our minds to that which we have not fully considered. You are always welcome to repeat after me or to use this time to state your own affirmation. I am supported. My resources are abundant. My resources are readily available to me. I receive the love I offer tenfold. I am honest with myself. I am honest with my peers and counterparts. I welcome their honesty in kind. I set my boundaries with intention. I respect the boundaries of others. My ecosystem is healthy and flourishing. I am going in the right direction. I am growing. I am grateful. Ashe, ashe, ashe. So passionates, back in January, I had an experience that I don't fully recall, but it did prompt me to document it and discuss it with you. And then as I was planning what episode would be next, I got a DM that brought this back to the forefront. And I don't know if it's because of the holiday season that's approaching, or if it's because it's the end of the year, or if it's just divine timing, but whatever. So in the past, we have talked about friendship maintenance. And if you've been rocking with me since inception, you know that the previous podcast that I hosted was specifically about adult friendship. And in one episode of that pod, we talked about checking in with your friends and confirming that they are actually available to receive whatever it is you're about to unload on them. So you may be going through something, and a lot of us have people in our lives who they just pick up the phone and they'll call us and they'll just drop off their stuff, right? They don't confirm whether we're in a space to receive it. They don't confirm our wellness. And there are too many of us that are currently experiencing this, or we have experienced it in the past. So these energy vultures, with their marred energy, they feel free to capitalize on our willingness to support them and readily come to usurp our energy. They take everything from us, and they usually don't give us much, if anything at all, other than negativity and maybe an exhausted or an exasperated thank you after they've weighed us down with their baggage. And for those of us on the receiving end, we don't want to feel like we're being selfish, and we don't want to be accused of being selfish. But when you're dealing with people whose favorite vocal warm-up is me, 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 it's hard not to sound or even feel selfish when the counter in your mind is, what about me? And just as a sidebar, I do realize that that's been somewhat of a recurring theme this season, and it may continue that way in the future. If you are old enough, you were raised in the era of selflessness being the way to move. But as we shift into deeper understanding and higher consciousness, we become ever more aware that in order to operate optimally in service to others, we have to be operating optimally for and within ourselves first. So that said, for as many of us as are callous or careless about how we covet support, I think that there's still many of us who are currently in a place, especially the more sensitive among us, where we're deeply concerned about dumping and unloading on others, so we don't speak up. We don't let people know what we're going through. We don't let them know we're in a bad way. And by the time they find out, it's too late. And this is problematic because there are people who actually want to and are willing to help. And while I don't want to say that we're robbing them, we're not even giving them the opportunity to say what they can and can't do or what they will and won't do. We're just assuming that the answer is no. And a lot of the time, we make these assumptions because of our own stuff. We don't want or have the capacity to be bogged down with somebody else's stuff. So we feel like, you know what, I'm going to just figure out how to deal with it. And that can be rooted in past experiences where the people that we have been close to, they've taken a turn in their behavior. And then that elicits skepticism in us. Like once bitten, twice shy, right? We're now skeptical about requesting an ear or a shoulder because the person that we've been leaning on or we've been confiding in has suddenly just flipped the script. They turned the tables and now they're no longer available to us. So the fear, the concern, the trepidation that the next person will respond in kind precludes us from saying to the next person, I'm going through something, I need a shoulder. And we're going to come back to this in another episode and unpack the table turning. So definitely put a bookmark there. But okay, so consider these things. You have friends who, yes, they are going through something, but they welcome the distraction of hearing that somebody else is going through or hearing what somebody else is going through because it makes them feel like I'm not the only one going through something. I'm not crazy. Because some people are in situations where the other parties involved are working tirelessly to make them feel like it's just them. Like the problem is with them. The problem is them. So they don't want to speak up because they feel like they're alone on an island or like they are the island and it's only them on a globe with 8+ billion people. It's only them who's going through something. Those people are feeling like, please come talk to me about your problems because I'm tired of the people in my head talking to me about mine. I'm tired of the people in my house that I'm talking to that aren't listening to me. I'd rather sort through something else right now. So this is actually really beneficial. Then you have other friends that you've decided they're too busy. They have too much going on. They have crazy schedules and they're heavily in demand by their kids, by their significant others, by their insignificant others. They have jobs and every other responsibility that's preoccupying and occupying them. You've made the decision they don't have time for you. And what you're doing is counting yourself out because some of those same people you've assumed and assessed have no time for you would make time for you. They would carve time out for you. They would put some things on hold for you. But by you deciding that they're not available to you, you factored yourself out of the equation. So you're burying yourself deeper into what you're feeling because you made a decision that person wasn't available, not because of that person's actual availability, but because of your assumption. One of my girlfriends was going through some things and she hit me up via text to tell me one thing. And then in the course of the conversation, she started hinting at other things. So finally she said, okay, when you have time, let's do a video call and let's talk about the things. So I'm like, okay, no problem. As the conversation progresses, I'm like, you know what? Let me take a shower. And when I get out of the shower, I'll set some time aside. Here's the thing. Had she never reached out, I wouldn't have assumed anything was going on, because I was preoccupied with the things I had going on. So sometimes you have friends that are so busy, you got to dig them out of their own stuff. And I know that sounds like I'm saying the same thing twice, but I'm really not. The last friend type, they're occupied, but they're not aloof and they're not oblivious. This friend type has tunnel vision or even monocular vision, right? So they're like horses and fish. They see out of one eye at a time. So while their scope out of the one eye is wide and the peripheral vision is enhanced, leaning on sight alone, they would completely miss what's going on right on the other side of them. So yes, they are busy. Their worlds are hectic and they're so enshrouded by their things. They don't even realize all the life that's happening and the things that they're missing around them. You may have to be like, hey, hi, remember me? Please holler at your friend. So that they can then be like, yo, I'm being neglectful. I'm here assuming everybody's good because I'm so caught up in what I have going on. I didn't even stop to think about how the next person is doing. So those are the friends that need a gentle reminder. And they may need more than one. I'm like that sometimes. Tell me now and I'll say, yes, yes, yes. Thank you for the reminder. But if I don't act on it now, it's anybody's guess if and when I will, simply because it's on the desk in my mind that has 12,000 other things on it, all of which require attention. But just because they have a lot going on, don't count yourself out of the friendship or the aid that you need by assuming they won't make the time for you. Just because you don't see how they can create time to talk to you doesn't mean it can't be done. You leave that up to them. Okay? Don't underestimate how important you are to people. Don't underestimate how important your wellness is to people who really love you or genuinely care for you. People who really love you will find time, even if all they can offer in the moment is a link to some professional help. And that might not sound very endearing, but think about it from this perspective. Someone who's on the computer doing research. They're already doing research, so they can research good help in your area. But that same person trying to concentrate on talking to you or texting you while doing this research is going to sound as disconnected and disengaged as they are. Something is getting the least. And I know for me, often the work can't suffer and I don't want you to suffer. So I'm going to do what I can to ensure everyone is getting something that they can benefit from. But if you're at least open to some professional help until I or whomever else is available to offer more personalized support and presence, let that stand. Let us love on you and give you what you need in the best way we can, as opposed to counting yourself out and suffering in silence, further worsening the problem. Also, keep that in mind for your friends who have told you that they are absent-minded, they are forgetful, they smoke a lot of them tweeds, or the people who have a neurological impairment. Some of them want to be present and they are trying to be present. But real talk, they're in an entire battle in their head trying to remember where they're supposed to be showing up and for whom. Now, is it irritating to you to repeat yourself? Mm-hmm. But would you rather remind the person that genuinely cares and holds space for you? Or would you rather bounce from relationship to relationship to relationship, repeating the same story, hoping to find the person who's vested or vested enough? And that takes us into our next point. A lot of us are holding on to people that we've been needed to let go of. And sometimes that's exactly what these challenging, catastrophic, uncomfortable situations come to reveal to you. You're going through A with X, or you're navigating chaos at your job, and you're thinking that the situation is about the immediate players. It's about X and them, when in reality, the person you don't want to call or overwhelm or impose upon is actually being revealed to you. You needed to learn that if and when your back is against a wall, they're not coming to do anything. Like if they weren't doing anything at all and they were just sitting around complaining about being bored, they wouldn't even pick up a phone to call if it were to save your life. So while you're trying to protect them and their sanity, you need to be protecting yourself from them by releasing them altogether. You need to know exactly who you can call on or lean into when it gets thick. You need to know who you can call in a clutch that's dropping everything, who's going to do the research with you, who's going to sit on the phone with you or come by the house and keep you company so that you can get things done. You ever see that cartoon of the old couple sitting on the bench in the rain and they've had like an argument or they're not speaking for whatever reason, but the old man, he's still holding the umbrella over his wife's head with the grumpy face and all to protect her? You need to know who will still have your back, even when they're tired of your shenanigans. And even after you've identified who's who, That doesn't mean that they'll always be available to play the role, but it will give you an idea of who you can call for what, so as not to have unrealistic expectations. But let's relinquish this practice of discounting and disqualifying people on assumptions of their willingness or availability. Let's stop discarding people because they're not available the first time. Remember that not everyone going through something is verbalizing or vocalizing it, and they may be on the verge or at their breaking point as well. They may be completely overextended, and if they take on one more thing, they'll be where you are. And then neither one of you will be good for yourselves or anyone else. Twice in the last 4 months, I've had friends tell me that they were in communication with someone, right? XYZ was in motion, and then radio silence, no response, left on red type of operations. So in one instance, tragedy hit and the air went silent because the other person's world was rocked to where nothing else could get their attention. In the other person's situation, good old technology destroying relationships one by one, the reply was sent, but it never went through. And the sender didn't realize it until they went to send a follow-up message. And that was a couple weeks later. So let's remember grace for that. Now, friend, on the other end, don't be afraid to establish boundaries. Don't be afraid to say, I can't take this on right now. Don't be afraid to tell them the truth if the truth is that you don't want to be bothered because you've heard it too many times and you're not interested in hearing it again. And it's very probable that they'll accuse you of not being a good friend or of not being a friend at all because of your honesty. I've been on both sides of this. Someone hurt my feelings not exactly the same way with their honesty, right? They said I was long-winded. And I promptly made all one conversations after that very abbreviated. Hi, I'm cool. That's good. A whole lot, not too much. But the truth was, they weren't always interested in having what to them felt like a session. They weren't interested in the details up front. And I wasn't interested in the Cliff Notes version with a Q&A to fill in all the missing details after the fact. And I told them it hurt my feelings. And they said, I know. But it didn't change their interest level. And because at the time, I couldn't take that truth for what it was worth, I fell back to invisibility. But that wasn't because they weren't a good friend per se. It was because my ego and my other unresolved issues around attachments and engagement couldn't take the statement for what it was worth. I've been on the other side too. And I wasn't interested. Now, was I interested in their life and their well-being? Yes. But was I interested in the LP version of a record I didn't want to hear in the first place? Immediately, no. And after it's all said and done, if you're not interested in rehashing, in reliving, in revisiting this situation that seems to be stuck on repeat in their life, while they may feel you're not being a good friend because you're not being supportive, you're not even being genuine by listening to something you don't want to hear. How many of you are willing to admit that when they start with the same story, the conversation in your head sounds like, oh my God, not this again. I am so tired of this story. Like, I need them to go get therapy yesterday. Or you feel like they ain't tired of telling this story yet, because I'm certainly tired of hearing it. Or if I got to listen to this story one more time, like your life could not have been this dry that this and the other 6 stories you tell are the only things that have ever happened. Because let me tell you something, person that wants to be indulged. When you start with the same story or the same theme of complaints, beloved, if your listener's not interested, but they're still indulging you, please believe that they are having a whole commercial break in their head as they brace themselves to hear it yet again. Being a good friend includes honesty. It is a major component of building a solid foundation. And someone is saying, okay, Passion, but what's the nice way to say? There might not be a nice way to say it. The truth is, when people are vulnerable or in a sensitive state, anything you say can yield a negative, unintended response. So their feelings might get hurt. But we've talked about precursory conversation before, right? It is super beneficial. Having the conversation beforehand will always be more delicate than that explosive, I don't want to hear this. Or you still talking about this? You must like it because you haven't done anything about it yet. Okay, Passion, hold up, because now you're not making sense. You're saying, don't be afraid to say something if I'm going through something. And then you're telling the people that we're talking to shut us down. And no, I'm not. I'm saying, speak up, give them a chance to help you, and don't assume that they won't. At the same time, I'm telling them to let you know the yays and the nays from go, and even give you a refresher at the start of the conversation. We've talked about that several times. But here's what. Assuming I can't help or support you because I have a full schedule is very different from knowing I won't support you or listen to your stories of woe because I don't see any progress from the last time I heard the story. Record scratches are for DJs. Skips weren't dope on 33s, 45s, or CDs, and they don't sound better in real conversation. Passionate, I don't want you to feel alone, and I don't want you to feel unsupported. But something that I came to terms with recently is that I haven't really been tapping into all that's been available to me because I was investing so much into one space. You, like myself, need to tap all of your resources. What you need, what you don't even know you need. It's not only available, but it's abundant. It's yours for the receiving, but you have to speak up. The love, the conversation, the quality time, the shoulder, it is available, but you have to make it known that you need it. You have to make it known that you want it. You have to cast a broader net to get it. You may have to wait a few more minutes, but that act of patience will avail more than you bargained for. And for you other passionates, the ones whose phones have notifications of everyone who needs help, be clear on your terms and be honest. Don't tell them it's not a problem when it is. Don't tell them you don't mind listening when you don't want to hear it. Don't tell them you have time when you don't, or tell them you have more time than you do. If you want healthy relationships, they have to be honest. If you want to be trusted and you want your word taken at face value, you have to give your friends reason. Enough for this week. Comments, questions, concerns, commendations, criticisms, and compliments, all are welcome. Drop them below. Listener letters can be sent to mybrilliantfriendpassion@gmail.com. Whether you are listening on your preferred podcast platform or viewing, like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, share. Help me help others help themselves. If you would like to be a financial contributor, donations can be made via Podbean, PayPal, Cash App, Linktree, or Zelle. All the links are in the description box. Every little bit helps. It all goes back to the pod. And with that, your Get You Right Guru is signing off. Y'all go forth. Be great. Be filled with bliss. Be armed and empowered with knowledge. Think on these things. And in all things, be passionate. See you later.